Hi, and welcome to Rec Chat, where students and professionals talk about all things collegiate recreation. I'm your host, Max Miller from Swarthmore College, where I'm the Assistant Director of Athletics for Recreation and Wellness. Thanks for joining us today, either live or via our archived YouTube channel. Joining me behind the scenes is Rochelle Williams from Western Washington University, where she is the Aquatics and Youth Programs Coordinator. Together, we're the Rec Chat team. We're excited Programs Advisory Council with us today. For those of you following on Twitter, we'll be asking questions using the Rec Chat handle regarding esports, so feel free to participate. Before we introduce our panelists, we wanted to share our gratitude with our friends at NERSA HQ for all of their support. If you haven't already, follow them on Twitter at NERSA Live. So without further ado, I'll let our panelists start by introducing themselves. Tell us your name, position, institution, and what is your favorite video game and why.
Hi, I'm Matt Grimm. I work at Stevenson University outside of Baltimore. I'm the director of Campus Rec. My favorite video game is the old school Galaga arcade game, just because it makes me think about growing up. Basically, every time I got a haircut with my dad, we used to go play at the arcade afterwards, so that's always been my jam.
Well, Matt, I think you have stopped getting haircuts. So we are, but what current video game do you like playing? Any? We are, our other member for today has having some technical difficulties, but we will get him back on soon. My favorite video game, I would say, would be Super Smash Brothers. It's just a good way to have some fun with friends, and I would say like a pretty mild-mannered way to just get in competition. And Rochelle's favorite is Mario Kart. So share with us your favorite video games and why on Twitter. But we will get started. So Matt, how can esports be used in a collegiate recreation capacity?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, obviously, myself and Jeff are going to talk about a lot of ways you can use esports on campus. Kind of the way that we're doing it right now at Stevenson, it looks a lot like our club sport program. And our club sport program is a little bit unique. So in a nutshell, if you have a team and a half of people that fill out paperwork, you have a team. And after you have a team, then we hire a coach. So every team that we have has a part-time head coach. And we're running esports the same way. So currently, we've had a League of Legends team for a little less than a year and a half. They do have a part-time coach with that team. And then Overwatch, we have enough people. We're in the process of hiring a coach. So they'll probably start participating in some of the tournaments next semester.
Very cool. I know here at Swarthmore, the esports program isn't directly affiliated with collegiate recreation. It's under student activities, but they do compete in various tournaments in the area. And I think it is a moderately strong following. Students are able to go into our gaming room on campus to use their computers for different games. And then there is different equipment that people can rent or just reserve in that specific room. What style of leagues and tournaments work well for esports on a college campus?
Yeah, so we've started to dabble a little bit in running esports programs at the intramural level. So earlier this year, we ran a Fortnite tournament, which had a really good turnout. We're actually planning on having a Madden tournament right before finals this semester. But I will say, even if you don't want to necessarily like support full-scale teams, I think it's a good way to reach out to your student population, get them involved, and just see like who has an interest in what they'd like to see coming out of your campus rec office.
For sure, definitely. I remember when I was in an undergrad, they would have FIFA tournaments occasionally, different Madden tournaments, Mario Kart, all just to get people who maybe don't typically play intramural sports in the physical way to get out there and interact with other students on campus, either in the lobby of a residence hall or in the dining hall or somewhere, to have just another competitive outlet to just have some fun and take a break from their studies. Matt, do you want to talk about the eSports task force?
Yeah, sure. So NERSA and NACA have kind of made a collaboration task force. So there's some of us within NERSA, some within NACA. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out how to properly support esports programs on collegiate campuses. And kind of our first step is we're going to be sending out a survey in the near future just to kind of figure out like who has a program, where does it fall, what kind of structure do you have, where does it fall under collegiate rec if it does? Just very basic things because we're just trying to kind of build up the group of people that are doing this.
There we go.
And then trying to figure out how to move forward from there. So be on the lookout for the survey. Certainly a hot topic around here. And like I said, we're just trying to figure out how to support everybody the best we can.
Jeff, we are glad that you're back with us. So Matt talked about, so just introduce yourself, tell us your favorite video game and what you do down there in Florida.
All right. So I'm Jeff Nelson. I'm the coordinator for intramural and rec sports at Seminole State. Being at a small program, I'm the sole full-time staff member here. So I oversee our weight room, intramural sports, our recreational trips, and then our new game room, which we have in the student center. And as part of that, also our esports programs. For my favorite video games, currently I'm still in the midst of playing Red Dead Redemption 2. I've put about 40 hours in it in about a month. And then overall, I always have to go back to Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 1. It's kind of the game that got me into competitive gaming and online gaming and, just countless hours with friends online kind of thing.
Very cool. So Matt chimed in a little bit about this earlier, but how do you think esports can be used in a collegiate recreation capacity?
Oh, yeah. So esports and recreation, it's just kind of an awesome opportunity to reach students. For us, we use it for a lot of one-day events or to supplement other activities that we're doing. It's always great for diversity and inclusion, things like that. You can get people from all over campus, from all walks of life to kind of come out and participate.
And then what style of leagues and tournaments have worked well for you with regards to esports on your campus?
All right. Without getting too lost in the sauce, so I've been doing esports tournaments for the last 3 years at Seminole State. So we've got kind of experience with a number of things. Our most popular and kind of easiest to implement, we'll do double elimination tournaments for 1v1 fighting games. So things like Street Fighter V, Soul Calibur 6 that just came out, Tekken 7 have all been really popular. So the Smash Brothers franchise, if you can get the setups for it. In regards to sports games and stuff, 1v1 tournaments, like just regular bracket tournaments, work well. We've also worked to implement leagues for those, where guys will get together and play multiple times through a semester, and we'll keep a running win-loss ratio and keep we have our own little scoring where people kind of stay ranked through the years in those sports. So those are kind of our two main ways that we implement them, both those being recreational and technically intramural. So those are all Seminole State students.
Very cool. Very cool. So how can recreational esports be used to help with recruitment and retention of students on your college campus? And then as a follow-up, how can these programs especially benefit small programs?
Yeah, so for recruitment and retention, esports, it's really hot right now with younger students and specifically high school students. For us specifically, we have a school in Seminole County called Crooms Academy, and they're a technology magnet school. And so whenever Croom students are doing campus tours, we always bring them by the game room and show it off. I'll come and talk to them about our esports and things like that, so we can bring them right in. For retention, we look back to kind of the benefits of campus recreation and that students that are engaged tend to stay at the school that they're at and finish their degrees. And it's just a great opportunity to engage with students, especially students who may not want to get engaged in other more physical aspects of recreation. And then specifically small programs. It doesn't take much to implement these, especially staff-wise. We'd have one or two people on a Saturday who can run a tournament for, sometimes upwards of 50-something students at one time in one bracket, things like that.
Just from my standpoint, and I'm sure this is the case in a lot of small programs, but at small schools, recruitment is king, right? We're all enrollment driven. The enrollment impacts all the budget, everything that we get. So really, if you can show that you're bringing in people specifically for your program, you get a better budget, you get better staffing. And, we've tried to implement that model within esports. There definitely is a market out there for kids who want to play at the college level. I think the challenge right now is schools are supported at very differing levels. So some schools are offering scholarships, some aren't. So it's a very interesting market. I will say, because we have a room, so our room is part of the tour, and you can always tell when there's a lot of college kids around, because it's the beginning of our building. They stop there, and there's always a bunch of hooting and hollering because we have 25 computers. It's about a $60,000 setup, and they're excited about it. So this is what kids want, and I feel like that's what colleges are all about, right? Building niches, getting people to want to come there and stay there for the 4 years and enjoy their time there.
Great. I completely agree. So how do you handle the logistics of having consoles and TVs for recreational esports? And Matt, you talked about the computers you have. So how do you handle the logistics, and maybe talk about access, how that's monitored? Do you have student staffing? All those sort of logistical items.
Yeah, so we certainly don't have it all figured out, but right now, across the hall from our computer gaming room is our console gaming room, so they're relatively close together. In the console gaming room, it's only open during certain hours of the day. We do have a student worker in there that checks IDs, that helps people get set up if they need that. So it's working pretty well. As far as the computer room's a little tougher, because I almost feel like we're trying to hit 2 years of groups. So, we have the competitive teams. So I feel like during their practices, it operates a little bit like a locker room, right? It's like their space, they're in there, they're doing their thing. Outside of those hours, it's open to the rest of the university population. We do have a student worker during that time period. We do have swipe access on both doors. So outside of the hours, you can't get in unless you're a handful of people. So it is something to consider, just trying to figure out how you're going to run it.
Yeah. On our end, it's a lot of the same for the game room that we have. So we have 4 55-inch TVs with Xboxes and PlayStations that students can check out. We have a manager and then a staff of attendants on duties that actually go and set up the systems for students. But if students want to come in and just check out a TV and bring their own system, they can. And that's more just kind of day-to-day stuff. With some of our esports competitions, for like our League of Legends and Overwatch things we've done in the past, we have actually a computer lab that's part of our IT department for the IT academic programs. And they allowed us to install League of Legends and Overwatch on their computers. And that space is just kind of closed off unless we're opening it on the weekend to do our events, or if student clubs want to have club meetings in there. Another kind of interesting one with logistics, when we first got started, we didn't have a game room. We just had an open floor plan student center. So what we did is we actually had student volunteers who brought their TVs from home and their consoles from home to do setups. And then we used our media services department, who had TVs on wheels that they would bring for different events around campus. And so I had to put in the request to get their TVs set up and things like that. So it was actually much more of a volunteering labor of love with me and the students, trying to juggle who was bringing what from home and things like that to make those tournaments happen back in the early days.
That's very cool, especially with the individuals bringing in their TVs, working with media services, just piecing it all together, using your resources on campus to make sure that you're providing the opportunities for the students to have a successful and enjoyable recreational experience. So definitely with esports, other campus rec activities, there's opportunities for partnerships. So what are the possibilities for outside partnerships involving collegiate rec and esports that you guys have heard of or are involved with, or just look to the future and see that something might come about?
Yeah, so I can jump in with a couple that we work on right now. So from in-house stance side of things, we have a local game store called Cybertron Games. Shout out to Cybertron Games. And they help us out. They donate prizes for students. When we do our weekend events, they'll come and bring a TV and one of their consoles from the store that'll be loaded with just games where students can go and play friendly matches in between other matches, or just play different games if they're not interested in what's going on in the tournament itself. And they're always great. They're always donating gift cards that we can give out to our second place prizes, things like that. And then we have a local company called Alorica, and this is more on the other side. We help them with their tournament. So they do an esports tournament because they're a company that hires students to do different kind of tech jobs. And they found that gamers are the kind of people they want to hire. So they reached out to us last year, and we actually walked them through the logistics of running a tournament and finding sponsors and things like that, and actually let them market through us to our students to actually help them host their event. And they've done it 2 years in a row. So that's kind of the two for us. And I think Matt's got a couple things for him on the competitive side.
Yeah, so from a partnership level, one thing I would suggest that helped us out tremendously was we actually had an esports consultant the first year we had a program, who is actually affiliated with a professional franchise. He helped us a lot in just understanding, like, who are the people who are interested in partnering with you, what's going to be important, what's not, like who's giving out things to professional teams at this point, and who might be interested in the collegiate space. So that was step number one. What's been cool is, like I said, a lot of people are trying to get into the space, so you can get some deals. One thing I had to show off was this is the jersey for our team. So I don't know how well you guys can see that, but this is the front. And then, everyone's got their gamer tag on the back. I don't have a gamer tag, but, so they just threw my last name on it. That's from Sector 6. So they're an apparel company that, again, they're trying to get in the game, and they kind of used us as a test market, and they came out really well. The kids love them, so that's been cool. I think my biggest challenge, because right now, like Jeff, I work in a small program. I'm the pseudo director of esports at this point. I don't really have a great knowledge base about some of this stuff. So, you can partner with headphones, with other computer peripherals, but like that's not my world, right? Like I wasn't an IT major. I'm a sports management guy. So I think that's going to be one of the challenges a lot of people face is there's a lot of groups that want to partner with you, but how much do you know about it? And maybe you need to find somebody on your campus who can help you out a little bit.
Jeff, could you talk a little bit about the Small Programs Advisory Council and what you all do through your charges?
Yeah, so the Small Programs Advisory Council came from a NERSA task force, actually, but we're in the second year. The whole kind of point of the Advisory Council is we focus on building benefits and professional development opportunities for people at small programs. We do things like rec chat, a pre-conference before nationals. We'll have one this year, a pre-conference the day before nationals. And then there's going to be more webinars in the coming months from the Small Programs Advisory Council. And then as of right now, if you go on the NERSA news or the NERSA website and check news, there's a news article about the Advisory Council. And then if you're interested in the council at all, for next year, applications open in the fall, and there'll be information about that in the NERSA now.
Cool. And Jeff, what sort of prizes are you giving out for your intramural esport competitions?
Yeah. So I mentioned prizes earlier. So we have the gift cards from Cybertron. They're always a big hit. And then we've done a number of different prizes through the years, sometimes depending on the game, and some things esports specific and some things not. Like recently we did Dragon Ball's Fighters with a Z, a pretty popular fighting game right now. And to the champion, we had a set of glass Dragon Balls, just like from the show, which are a huge hit. Like everyone was actually really excited to win those. In the past, we've done things like personalized consoles, so there are controllers, excuse me. So you can get controllers wrapped on a number of websites with whatever designs you can come up with. So we've got some of those printed and wrapped and given those away as prizes. We've given away copies of games. Sometimes people weirdly want a second copy of the game that they already own just to give to friends or family. So we've done those. And to figure out what's best to give away, we always just kind of do some assessments, and we talk to the students, and we talk to the people we know that are going to compete, and ask, like, what would they be looking for? We've given away fight sticks in the past, which are, like a controller, almost like an old school arcade joystick with buttons. So it's really just kind of what people are looking forward to getting.
Very cool, very cool. So we will turn to Twitter to see what's going on. So Rochelle has a question from Twitter from TomDoc88. So he's asking, what about a budget for equipment? Right now, our students bring their own, but we're looking at repurposing a computer lab. What do you guys think are ballpark estimates for all the necessary electronics? Obviously, just think general here. Since every school is different computers cost different amounts of money, just talk a little bit about the early stages.
Yeah, so at least from my standpoint, I guess it really depends on how you want your setup to look like. I will say I went to the NACE conference over the summer, so that's the National Association of Collegiate Esports. I get the impression that a lot of programs right now, it's got a lot of smoke and mirrors. So there's a lot of places where they just hollowed out a small space, they put 5 computers, they put a logo, and they call that their esports suite. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, I think if you want a good gaming laptop, it's probably going to cost you at least $1,000. I think if you want a good gaming actual computer, you're looking at like $2,000 or $3,000, when you're talking about everything that you need for it. And then it really depends on how much you want to put into it. Like we have gaming chairs, but you can have an esports suite without gaming chairs. Obviously, if you want to mac out the room, that's going to up the cost a little bit as well. So it's definitely doable, and I think you can do it at a lot of different levels. It really just depends on what your budget looks like, and I guess how spectacular you're trying to make it look.
Well, Matt, I've been to Stevenson's, and I'd say yours looks, as you said, spectacular. So it was very cool. If anybody's ever in the Baltimore area, definitely send Matt an email, check it out. I'm sure Jeff would be willing to have anybody on campus too to look at the space that they have on campus. We have another question from Anthony Turan. If you have your own game room, who's responsible for servicing the equipment? Does IT take care of it? Do you take care of it? Do you get an outside company to take care of it? So just any thoughts?
Yeah, so for our game room, just so they make this good, we don't have computer gaming in our game room. That's just in the computer labs that academics have, so that's taken care of by the IT department. But for us, for our console gaming, we have our staff taking care of it. So when I hired the room manager and the attendants that report to him, made sure that people were confident in gaming consoles, so for Xboxes and PlayStations, and they handle all that stuff. And luckily, I've had experience myself. I have an Xbox One and a PlayStation, so I know the ins and outs of it. And we've only had one major problem ever, and that was a student unplugged a PlayStation before it was turned off all the way, and it wiped the system, so we had to reinstall it. But luckily for us, all that information is actually easily to find online. Sony has all that laid out, and you can download the system onto a flash drive and reinstall it onto a PlayStation. So got kind of lucky with that.
I will say from a computer gaming standpoint, 2 big things to consider. number one, you got to talk about food and drink and what do you want in the room and where can you use it in the room. Like one challenge we had was we have a setup where there's 3 couches and a TV and a table. We thought that kids could eat in there, but then we started finding like grease stains on the equipment and stuff spilled everywhere. So pretty much the only thing you can have in there at this point is water. We have some couches luckily nearby, so if you want to step out and eat, that's not a big issue. The other thing you might want to consider, and this has been a big hit for us, our esports room has a dedicated server. So you can actually, computer gaming is all about how quick you can play and do you have the bandwidth and all that stuff that's going to make it easy for you to do what you need to do. When we first had the program, we were on the university server, and these teams are practicing late at night when everybody else is on their computers, when everybody's looking at Netflix and whatnot. And so it made it a challenge. So a lot of these kids, they want to be in the room all the time because they know they can get that dedicated server. They don't have to mess around with the university stuff. So again, like we've had a lot more kids who are interested in coming to the room who aren't on the team because they have that server and they can game at the speed that they want to game at.
Very cool. And it's always good to have that interaction from Twitter. If you're following along, definitely continue to ask questions. We will be trying to answer them as best as we can while we're still going on here. But moving on to our next question. So how do you start developing an esports program? What suggestions or what direction do you think people should take on their campus, a recreational model or a competitive sports model with esports?
So again, when I was at the conference this summer, I think we actually had this question come up, and one way we took it was, what does your campus currently look like? So overall, I would say we're a competitive campus. I report to the athletic director. We have 27 Division III NCAA teams. We have another 10 club teams. We now have 2 esports teams. So there's just a lot of kids that like to compete, and so I think kind of putting it under the club sport model for us was kind of an easy add. It made the most sense, but I don't think that's necessarily true everywhere. So that's kind of what worked for us. Jeff, it might have looked a little bit different on your campus because obviously every campus is unique.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it's everything kind of stays in the lane of recreational, which is interesting. It really is just kind of a cool supplement to everything we're doing with our outside programs and stuff like that. And looking at how we started, so for me, it was as easy as finding the groups on campus that were already into it, but not necessarily had the kind of, expertise to formalize anything. Like as a rec sports professional, I can take just about anything and turn it into a tournament. And so we had a group of students that would hang out in the student center, bring a TV from home or set up from home and play. And so I reached out to them, got to meet some of their friends, and then we had a League of Legends club on campus. Gone with them, went to a few of their club meetings just to introduce myself, let them know what we were about. And from there, we were able to throw together our first, what we call SmackDown Saturdays, which is our tournament series, which are the 1v1 fighting games that we do. The first one, we did it in the automotive showroom on campus that we have as part of our Auto Tech certificate program. So we're in the automotive showroom. We brought 4 TVs from media services and 4 TVs students brought from home, consoles from home, and just made it all happen. We used the projector in there and projected the championship so everybody could watch the grand final, if you will. And yes, that's kind of where we got started with recreational, and from there just branched out into doing the 1v1 and 2v2s with League of Legends and our sports game leagues that we do.
Very cool. I mean, definitely awesome knowledge for people who are just getting into this, or some new ideas for anybody who has a recreation or competitive esports program on their campus. So NERSA's mission statement is as follows. NERSA is a leader in higher education and the advocate for the advancement of recreation, sport, and wellness by providing educational and developmental opportunities, generating and sharing knowledge, and promoting networking and growth for our members. So, how do you address the inherent sedentary nature of esports with your department's overall goals for fitness, health, and well-being?
Yeah, so, like I said, since our program's unique and we have a coach for every team, one of the challenges we have on campus is space. So all of our facility space is shared, so the turf's shared, the gyms are shared, all that stuff. So sometimes it's hard for teams to get in for a practice as much as they want. And so a lot of them have gone to gym sessions like, hey, we might not be able to get on the field, but we're all going to lift together and we're going to get better today. I had a discussion with our coach next semester. Like, he definitely wants to put this into place for his team, because right now they practice 3 times a week in the room, which is good, obviously helpful and helping them be competitive. But like you said, like, it is a lot of sitting, and we're kind of in the business of not sitting. So I'm really happy that he's taking that approach, and we're hoping that it works out.
Yeah, and then from our side of things, so with our personal mission statement for my department is we're here to foster a healthy and active lifestyle for students. With the sedentary nature of esports, we don't address that piece as far as like getting people up and moving, but we focus on the healthy lifestyle aspect of it. So we use this opportunity to advocate to students about healthy eating. If people are bringing food in and out of the game room, we talk to them about it, things like that. But we also look at a healthy lifestyle in regards to kind of friendships that students make and all those sort of opportunities. One quote that I have from a student on my wall actually over here is not everybody can play sports, but anybody can pick up a video game. And that's a great opportunity because we've had a lot of students in wheelchairs who will come and use our space or take part in our tournaments. A lot of just students who may not be interested in traditional sports, but it's a great opportunity for everybody to get to know each other. And we always have a great inclusive environment. It's always very diverse. So we look at the healthy lifestyle from those aspects of things as opposed to physical health with our program.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. Good thing to keep in mind that wellness isn't just physical wellness, it's emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, creating friendships with people. So you guys are doing great work. So a question we have from Twitter from Heather Nelson. From your knowledge base, do developers offer bulk licenses of the games that you're playing on your campuses when you install them on the computers or the consoles, or are you buying like 25 individual copies or downloads of League of Legends or Overwatch or Madden for your programs?
So at our school for the computer setup, at this point, a lot of these games, how they run is, you kind of have your own individual setup. So like, if you download the game, then you can kind of play it. So what we did was we actually created like Stevenson specific, like Stevenson Campus Rec 1, Stevenson Campus Rec 2 on like separate computers. So, if you're a big time player, you can obviously log into your account, but if you're just trying it for the first time, you can log into the Stevenson account, and the people that are in the room kind of help with that process if you're new to the game.
Yeah, and then I can speak to the beauty of some of these games. So League of Legends is free, so anybody can download it and make an account. So that's why it's a really accessible one, especially to start with, and students are already out there playing it. I know it's one of the most popular for watching as far as esports viewership goes. And then for League of Legends, also Riot, the company that runs it, is great with working with collegiate recreation in different ways. They did a promotion with NERSA a couple years ago where they gave out starter packs for students and on cards that students could type in and get bonus points and things like that. For some of the other games, Madden, we just own our own disc copies and we run them off of our consoles. And then if it's a console that somebody brings from home, obviously it's their copy that they own. And then the same for Overwatch. We just own individual licenses that we had to purchase for it.
So one thing I did want to bring up to the group that I just thought of from a console standpoint is, and one thing we noticed with our console room. So when we got our computer and our console room built, I didn't run the project, but I got the impression that we found some extra money on the university campus. We had a new president who was interested in trying to fund student-centered things, and that's how they came to be. But we all know there's a difference between like physically building space and then having the money to run it. So for instance, we bought a bunch of games because we had the money, but Jeff, you and I both know that new games come out pretty much every year. So one thing that you need to do when you're thinking about running a console area, if you're going to own the games, is you got to update them almost every year, year and a half, two, if you're lucky, because we haven't updated all the games in our room, and it's starting to not become hip because some of the games are 18 games, and they're like, well, if I can't play the 19 game, like the 19 FIFA or the 19 Madden, then I'll just find somewhere else to play it. So that is a challenge that you need to address if you decide to do a console gaming room.
Yep, and one more piece to add on to that. So yeah, we're starting to get requests for the new 2K19s for everything too. And also fighting games do things like season passes. So you might look and see you can buy the game for $60, and that's great, but it might be $35 to get the DLC characters as they come out once, twice, 3 times a year. And that actually adds an extra wrinkle when you're doing tournaments, because sometimes we'll have, like just for us, for Street Fighter V, one of our setups has every DLC character and one is missing one. So when we did our last Street Fighter tournament, as we were building out the bracket and assigning people to TVs to play their matches, we had to figure out who was using what characters and which TVs had those characters available. So it's just something else, a little bit of added cost as things are moving forward and new characters come out.
Cool. So we have another question from Twitter. So what are you doing to help your students build skills that will set them up for the future workforce, either in esports, gaming, STEM, STEM, and other different technology interests or employment opportunities?
Yeah, so one thing that's been interesting in our area, there's actually a big rise in like gaming companies and kind of things that you can get involved in. So one thing that's been cool is because they're close by and they heard about our program, some of the kids on our team have been able to get internships at some of these companies that are making games that are involved in the esports world. We're trying to develop a partnership with somebody called Game Gym. For better lack of terms, that kind of look like a AAU program for younger kids. Like it's not like you have esports at the school level at this point. So it's kind of their opportunity to, meet other people, compete in games. So there's been a lot of cool things that have come because we started this on our campus.
Yeah, and from our end, just a few things we've done. It's a great opportunity for networking with students, in between students and with other companies in the area. I think one that comes to mind when we think about like skill sets for futures in esports, one of our students, he has played competitively in the past as a pro, traveled the country playing. And with those connections, he's been able to introduce other students who have dreams of going pro and things to that world and kind of what those logistics look like. We have a really big pro tournament down the road in Daytona every year called CEO. And that student actually helped other students. They'll split the cost of a hotel room to go compete over the summer. And then outside of our actual tournaments and things, we've held panel discussions and invited people on campus. Full Sail University has a game design program, so we've had them on campus to speak to students who have looked at game design as a future, and just kind of things of that nature.
Very cool. Always good to help develop our students, especially in this new avenue for collegiate recreation. Just want to thank the two of you for joining us today. Matt and Jeff, you both helped us out a lot, provided some good insight. I'm sure that if anybody has questions, they can reach out to you by going to your recreation websites to find your email addresses. So hopefully you'll get some questions from anybody who's viewing in the archive for YouTube. Want to thank Rochelle for all of her work on the back end with Twitter and liking and retweeting everything and sharing some questions. Thanks to Megan from Nurse HQ for initiating this with the Small Programs Advisory Council. Be sure to join us in December for our next Rec Chat session, where we'll be partnering with the Nurse Championship Series to talk about competitive sports such as soccer, basketball, flag football, and what's in the future for the Champ Series. Until next time, have a great rest of your week and a wonderful Thanksgiving break. I'm Max Miller from Rec Chat. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great day.